Welcome to my network tour. We're going to start with the core of the internet network, which is how the internet comes in. Here we have a fiber connection, an ONT, and a few people I've seen have used their ONT's router and put it in bridge mode. But from the research I read, sometimes when the power gets reset, the bridge mode breaks and then the ISP's router starts dishing out IP addresses and causes all sorts of problems with your network. So after doing further research, I ended up with this little TP-Link switch, which converts the ONT into Ethernet, and which can go directly in to my first device, which is my Dream Machine Pro SE. The reason I chose the Dream Machine Pro SE over the Dream Machine was it had PoE ports. And when I first started out with my network, I thought I could get away just with the Dream Machine and I wouldn't need anything else because this has PoE, which is power over internet ports. And you need those because the Dream Machine doesn't actually come with any Wi-Fi capability. You have to buy at least one access point for it to work. And all access points that come from UniFi, there's no way to power them other than PoE. So you need to have a PoE switch. So that's why the Dream Machine Pro SE became a key part of my network, is it has PoE, so I was able to power my first access point. After having my Dream Machine Pro SE for a while and getting a few cameras and a few access points, I quickly realized I wanted to expand my network. So I decided to run Cat 6A or Cat 7 cables to each room in my house. If you want a further video on different Cat cable standards, we can go through that, but really what you need is minimum of Cat 6A, which is pretty much the standard. You can get 10 gig networking up to a couple hundred feet with Cat 6A cable. And I wanted to future-proof my network so I could have at least 10 gigabit connection in each of my rooms. My second switch I went with was a Pro 24 switch. The reason I went with the Pro switch was that it has layer 3 switching, which allows you to do internet traffic through IP addresses instead of just MAC addresses. I don't know how much I've used it, but I thought it was something that I needed at the time. I'm not really sure if I do now. And it's turned out to be a great switch. A lot of the connections are to rooms that haven't actually put stuff in yet. So it's not super critical, and it's not a PoE switch, so I can't have any access points or cameras connected to it. But it runs all my switches. They're up to 1 gigabit. And most things in your house can't even run a gigabit internet. They're at fast internet, which is 100 megabits. So gigabit's 1,000 megabits a second. And all your smart TVs and amplifiers and stuff like that only run on 100 megabits. So this switch is more than enough to handle those type of devices. So all my TVs have direct connections to this. All my amplifiers in the house are also directly connected to it. So I'm trying to get everything off Wi-Fi as much as possible. I'll explain why in the future. My next switch I decided to get with is I decided that 2.5 gigabits kind of like the next bridge. 10 gigabit was a bit expensive, so I went with 2.5 gigabit. And I needed more PoE because some of the cameras and access points that are coming out needed 2.5 gigabits. I needed power over internet as well. So I ended up with this Enterprise 24 PoE switch, which is my second switch right here. It's great because it has half, so 12 ports of PoE at 1 gigabit, and the other 12 ports are 2.5 gigabits. So anything that has a slightly faster connection is connected to that. My next switch I got was the Flex XG. If you don't know what XG means, it means anything that's 10 gigabit. So this was the switch that I used to connect my computers in my house directly to my NAS, because those are the only things that have 10 gigabit. So I have 2 Mac Minis with 10 gigabit connections and my NAS, which is a QNAP NAS that has a 10 gigabit connection as well. So those are for direct file transfers between the those devices, and I wanted that to be 10 gig. The only thing that a lot of people don't know about this Flex XG switch is its backbone is a 1 gigabit connection. So everything connected to it operates at 10 gigabits between each other, but if it connects back to the main switch, it's only at 1 gigabit. So only things that are directly connected to that switch can work at 10 gigabits, but has to go through into another switch and back out. It's only 1 gigabit. And that was something I didn't know when I first purchased it. So it's kind of like halfway between true 10 gig, because you can actually communicate with the rest of your network at 10 gigabits. My future plan is to buy a 24 port PoE all 10 gig switch, or at least half 10 gigs, to communicate with more things in my house as my 10 gig network grows. And I want to upgrade to some better access points that need PoE plus a 10 gigabit. And I don't have those capabilities yet. The next part we're going to talk about is the Protect. So if anyone knows about the Dream Machine, it can run Talk, it runs Network, it runs Protect, it can run everything at once. But there are limitations to it. So what I've added onto it is I've added this AI port and AI key. Now there's some differences. The first thing I got was the AI port. And the benefits of the AI port is it gives additional smart detections, because all the G4 lineup of cameras and above have person detection and pet detection and package detection. But if you want to have face detection or license plate detection, you have to have the G6 line, which a lot of my cameras were just G5. So I ended up with this AI port here. And what it does, it adds, I think, 4 extra cameras, those smart detection capabilities that G6 cameras have or AI cameras have. So that face detection and license plate detection. And that's what this specific thing does. Now, on top of that, you can get the AI key, which the difference with the AI key is it's post-production. The AI port is pre-production. So it's actually actively looking at the footage as it comes in and deciding if that's a face or a package. What the AI key does is it goes through and looks at the videos afterwards. So you can search guy with red hat, person walking white dog, anything like that. And the additional features that it does, it actually, and you have to check what state you're in or province you're in, it actually can record what people are saying and do text transcriptions of it. So it'll write the whole conversation down of what people are saying in front of the camera. And from what I understand, it's illegal in some states. So be careful if you use it. Yeah, you'll get all the gossip from what comes up. So currently what I have is a Cybex unit, which is my UPS, which is a redundant power supply. So each of my switches are directly connected to this, and this is directly connected with one plug to the power. So if the power ever goes out, I have about 10 minutes of running time before everything has to shut down. But because this is a Cybex unit and it's not UniFi, it can't smart link to each one of the switches to shut them down automatically, like a safe shutdown process. With computers, you can link it to this unit via USB. So my NAS is also connected to the Cybex unit via USB, and it's pre-programmed. Once it detects that the Cybex unit is powering it, it'll automatically go through a shutdown sequence in 1 minute and safely shut down the NAS before the power goes out. But the UniFi switches don't have USB ports at the back, so you can't connect in them to do a safe shutdown. So it happens if the power goes out, which it basically never does here. But if it does, the NAS will shut down with the critical units or critical information on it safely. But the switches and the Dream Machine will just die after the power is cut off. So there is a Dream Machine, or there is a UniFi redundant power supply that's out, but it doesn't have all the features I'm looking for. You can connect it directly into it, and you're able to do safe shutdown procedure for each one of your switches. But I also want to have the ability to power cycle each of the ports. If there's some power, each one of the power ports, if there's an issue. For instance, if the Dream Machine is having some issues, I want to be able to remotely power cycle it, or one of the switches is having issues and remotely cycling it. UniFi does make a device that you connect all your devices into, and you can power cycle it, but it's just basically a smart power bar. It doesn't have the UPS function as well into that. So I think that's something that UniFi is going to be coming out with in the next few months, and that's something I'm waiting for to upgrade to. So that's when this will get replaced. Basically, right here at the bottom is just a power supply. So if I have an issue with something and I can't shut it down and I need to manually shut it down, I can just flip the switch and kill the power to each of the devices. But it'd be nice if these two things could be integrated into one and nicely configured with UniFi, so I could just do it remotely and that'd be a great upgrade, but the technology is just not there yet. So that's one thing I'm looking at next. So currently, as I've said before, I have the Dream Machine Pro SE, which has been a great switch up until now. It's starting to have issues. It's running at 90% CPU and 90% memory pretty consistently. And because I have 2 displays running lots of the time, this one's on a smart switch, so whenever I walk into the room, it turns on. And because it's displaying all of the 10 cameras at once, it actually uses up quite a bit of resources, and Protect is continuously crashing. So I've hit the limit of what this switch is capable for running Protect. I haven't hit the limit of what it's going to run for the network, but Protect has hit its limit. So I had 2 options. I had to look at a more powerful router, or I had to go with a dedicated NVR. And I know they're coming out with a new NVR Pro that's going to have a built-in AI key into it, which is something I'm super interested when it comes out, but it's not currently out right now, and I'm having a lot of issues with my current setup. So the Beast just came out a couple days ago, and I was lucky to order one. One of the benefits of the Beast is you get 10 gig ports, which I currently don't have. So that's one of the reasons I wanted it, to have all my 10 gig stuff directly connected to it. And it has 2 drive bays for Protect. The downside is they just run in redundancy. So it's a RAID 1 format. So it's just recording 2 of the same thing. And because it's my house, I don't care too much if my footage gets lost. So I'm going to be populating it with one 24 gig or 24 terabyte drive. And the drive is going to be called a SkyHawk, which I've been using, the Seagate drives. Currently in...
what was I going to say next? Yeah, Dream Machine has 24.
Currently, I have a 6 terabyte drive. And when I first started out, I had 2 or 3 cameras, and I had 45 days of recording. Now we're talking 10 cameras on there. I only get 2 weeks of recording. So if I go on vacation for longer than 2 weeks and I come back, the initial footage will already be overwritten before I even really get a chance to look at it. So I'd like to have a minimum of 1 month of recording. So when I get the Beast coming in, I have a 24 terabyte SkyHawk drive that will be running. And one other thing you guys should know, when you're looking at populating your drives for your Dream Machine Pro, what type of drives you want for surveillance. When I bought my SkyHawk drive, it runs at a slower RPM, the 6 terabyte. 8 terabytes and higher run at 7,200, and I think it's 5,400 or something for 6 terabytes and below. And the reason that's important is if you want to scrub through your footage, it has a bit of a delay. So I'd recommend getting at least an 8 terabyte drive or higher, just for that faster drive speed, so you can scrub through your footage better. You may have noticed some buzzing in the background. Those are fans. Those aren't stock UniFi fans. Because this is my laundry room and my dryer is right here, which we don't use that much, but I was concerned about extra heat production. So I went a little bit overkill on the fans. So what I have here at the bottom in the rack, there's 2 fans for pushing air up, and there's a temperature sensor inside the unit that gives me live temperature data to make decisions on what level the fan should spin at. So for instance, when it starts getting slightly hot, half these fans turn on going forward to exhaust the hot heat out into the room. And if it gets hotter, the lower fans turn on and blow up. And I also have another series of fans behind these switches to push the very hottest air from the very back forward. And that heats up this room. Now in summer, you can get up to 35 degrees in Vancouver, not that often, but this room gets extremely hot. So what I also was able to figure out is I used the old exhaust from the dryer that went up through the ceiling and out the house. I put a bathroom fan inside there. So when it gets really hot, the bathroom fan turns on and exhausts the air directly outside. I drilled another hole in my wall to run the current dryer vent directly out the side. So I'm using the old dryer vent at the very top for exhausting the air on really hot days to keep this room at a manageable temperature. I got a lot more exciting videos planned. There's going to be a bunch of upgrades to this switch, and even downstairs in my basement, I'm going to make a secondary rack where I'm going to be putting in more cool features into it, because I went way overkill on running Ethernet wires, and I have so many that I don't even know what to do with them all. Thank you for watching. If you like this content, please subscribe. If you have any comments, please write them below, or if I got anything wrong, please put it below.